And justice must be fair for all to see.
Yes.
But let me indicate to you that we would wish that matters, as soon as they are investigated, the report comes out the next day. But sometimes it is not as easy as that. For example, in this matter, we have to ask ourselves, and I would ask you to just allow me a little bit of restraint in how I explain things, because we have submitted the file to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. So that's the final stage. When we get that ruling, then the families, etc., will get the Commission's report and the ruling. Right? Now, in this instance, we have to ask ourselves, when it came to the attention of Indicom, did it come to our attention at the time it happened, or did it happen some time before? The quicker you get information on an incident is the better your investigation can be. We'll also have to ask ourselves, was there an investigation started before it came to our attention? So sometimes you're stepping in on the back foot, but we had to do what we had to do. We had to interview all the officers. We had to seek and find out those who were in the cells at the time and some who had actually been released. If there was an investigation that had started, then we also would have had to request that file with those materials. We also had to send our forensic persons to go in the cell. But when we went in the cell, the complaint and risking would have been out already. All of that investigation. Plus, we had to write to the court to provide us with the court records. And then, again, when you take the statements, we had to submit them to our legal department. If the legal department identifies any gaps, it will have to go back. So there were instances where it's 4 different times. And even if a witness says, I can't make it today, I'll make it Friday. When it was Friday and it can't happen, let's say next week, we couldn't just rush, send the file without it. So we had to show the patience and wait up. So it took some time, we couldn't short circuit the process, we just had to do the full process so that whatever findings we have is complete. When we completed, we sent the file to the Office of the DPP. But in the interim, our central office was in contact with Ms. McIntosh, the mother, sometimes with Nzinga. We had spoken also to the attorney. We had spoken to Mr. Goff because I figure the father, Mr. King, was more associated with the Rastafarian group. So we spoke, right, indeed. So I spoke to Mr. Lorne, I spoke to Mr. Goff on it. But these things maybe not necessarily leaked to the press, but we did all of that. Plus, what we have done at Indicom, we have brought on a family liaison officer to ensure that even though we deal with 1,000 matters in 1 year, that we have somebody dedicated to be in touch. Because I realize there's a little gap there in terms of how much we are able to communicate with the citizens and update them. So thanks be to God, in the last few months we now have a family liaison officer. And almost every day I am in touch with her, including today on other matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, in due course, and not to mention, additionally, a matter of Nzinga's kind of matter, mistake, it can have 1 of 4 outcomes. 1, it can have a criminal outcome. So you have to be thorough with that. When you have a matter in court with a criminal standard, the burden to prove say somebody guilty is at its highest. You know what that standard of proof is? Beyond reasonable doubt. Now, there's another level called the civil standard where you can seek compensation for a wrong done to you. So that's another possibility. That standard is a little lower. That is not beyond reasonable doubt, but on a balance of probability. And then you go to the possible disciplinary problem. So that is why, from our end, we had to be thorough. So even when we had requests for postponement after postponement after postponement, we had to sort of ride with it. We had no choice but to ride with it.
So how long has it been with the DPP?
It was sent to the DPP, I believe, on the 10th of December. I'm speaking, 10th of November. I'm speaking from memory.
From memory.
Right, but
And
so
how long does it take to get back?
so far we have had reasonable returns. We do not give the DPP a date. If, for example, 2 months or so pass, we may write a letter and indicate that we await a ruling. But we await the good office of the DPP to give us a return.
And we are very grateful that you have written to us. You've answered us and you came out here and to talk to us.
I have no option. Your citizens of Jamaica, and we are serving the public of Jamaica.
Yes.
So I have a duty to speak to you.
Yes. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I also would like to follow up with you as well. I will follow up with you because you have to come back.
Hold it down, hold it down, hold it down.
Yes.
All right, so we follow up with you again.
No difficulty with that. No difficulty with that. Indeed.
Somebody hold that thought.
But I also would like to take the opportunity to follow up on these
Yes.
those young boys that died in that car.
Violence.
Right.
Let them don't get more.
Well, in that matter, the most recent update is that we are awaiting some responses from the lab. We had a meeting this week with the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine with regard to that matter and the report. So that is being pursued. I have requested that, and the Director of Complaint for our central region has visited the families. I had gone down to Hayes, spoken to some of, I think Mr. Salmon's relatives, etc., and a few others. But our investigator, our Director of Complaint, and our family liaison officer has been in contact. But as I have said, I've recently put in place a dedicated family liaison officer. So all of those steps will improve than previously.
Yes, because it's been. But I really thank you again.
Yes, you're most welcome.